So in terms of GitHub, there's been some announcements there that I think are quite exciting, and I want to touch on those as well. So one that we saw is GitHub sponsors have now been launched in India. So in terms of GitHub sponsors, that allows you to turn on, I want to say, donations or payment to your GitHub repositories and your projects inside GitHub. And this is great for those that are maybe doing open source projects and need to be able to contribute to some costs. So if you are running, a GitHub repository with your open source project and you need to be able to cover some costs, you can ask people who use your open source product, who contribute to it, to maybe help you pay for that website domain that you've bought for that project, whatever it may be. But GitHub sponsors now allows you to do that inside India. So previously it wasn't available to residents of India, but it is now. So it is something to have a look at. And I'm sure people will be excited to see GitHub sponsors grow into that Indian region as well. Now, this is a fairly cool bit of news. So you can specify different context for images in Markdown. So if someone is using, a light theme on their browser inside GitHub, then you can set it so that you have a certain image for them within the light mode. So maybe it's your logo that looks better against a white background. And then if people are actually using dark mode inside GitHub, you can specify a different logo or different image that would look better on a dark theme as well. So there's some HTML code that you can append inside the Markdown that allows you to define two images depending on whether your end user is using light or dark mode. So again, great for accessibility and great again for being able to display maybe your image. Like I said, if your image displays better on a dark background versus a light one. This feature is in beta, so it's kind of still in development, but it's something to have a look at. If you have readmes on your projects, have a look at changing the image depending on the theme that's available, because I think that's pretty cool, and I'm definitely going to play with that in certain things that I've set up with inside my GitHub repos. Now, another thing that I noticed, and this will actually be quite useful, hopefully I'll get a chance to try it, or maybe I don't want a chance to try this, but you can now rerun your Azure Actions workflows with debug logging enabled. So if you are having to rerun a job, rerun one of your workflows, and you want to have a look at why it's maybe failing, or even dive into what it's done, because it hasn't quite done what you wanted it to do, but it's completed successfully, you can turn on debugging when you rerun your job. So if you go into GitHub Actions within the GitHub repository, if you click on one of your jobs, and when you click on rerun, you now get a dialog box and you have the ability to enable debug logging as well. So something to bear in mind if you've got that tricky workflow that you want to dive into in further detail. And last bit of news that I've picked out, GitHub Mobile can now verify sign-ins on unrecognized devices. So if you've got two form factor authentication enabled, you can actually use the GitHub Mobile application to authenticate that that's you logging in on an unknown device, so a browser or a machine you've never used before. So again, you can usually do this with email notifications, but let's face it, it's not always handy to have email notifications. And if you've got your mobile phone with the application, then you can log in using the mobile app to verify who you are and make sure that that two form factor authentication is actually working for you, and get alerts that way as well. So pretty cool there. I actually don't have the GitHub Mobile application installed on my phone, so I'll need to double check that and get that set up and give that a try as well.